all the way out in Fiji, my man Jaison. What's good, homie?
You know, it's actually Toronto. Looks crazy, but it's here. Yeah, it's Toronto.
Guys, striking it
down by
the bridge. Yeah, by the bridge.
My man couldn't even let me have it. Jaison couldn't even let me have it. He's like, actually, Chris, you're dumb. It's actually Toronto.
10:14 p.m. Not daylight. 10:14 p.m.
What you got, Jaison?
No, I mean, you know, it definitely was good. Showcased the bad boys. Well, one thing I had a chance to see was Phil Jackson. I didn't know that he won 2 rings before, so you know that was definitely something cool to kind of check out. I always was a Bad Boys fan. It probably would have been really cool if they would have highlighted just a little bit more about how they had to face the Celtics and then they had to face the Lakers. I remember watching those finals in like 88, 87, 89, whatever. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's definitely been a solid documenting, really good and really good information. Showcase Rodman. I didn't know they were going to talk that much about him, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely been great. I can't wait to see episodes 5 and 6.
You made mention of the Bad Boys. We've mentioned it a few times, but the one thing that I also liked about the doc is, and as much as I'm a big Jordan fan, the thing that I believe, and I heard somebody say it this week after they were doing some sort of commentary on this as well, that I don't know if Jordan becomes who he is if it wasn't for the Bad Boys. And we see that. I don't know if Jordan becomes the greatest of all time if it wasn't him going down to the Bad Boys in the manner in which he went down to them for those 2 straight years.
You need the villain.
The Bad Boys have a lot to do with who Jordan became, and to the point, and then even a lot to do with even how the Chicago Bulls shaped their organization. They realized that they needed a Rodman type guy on their team. They even then got John Sally and guys like that on their team. Why? Because they realized that they need that type of culture.
Oakley wasn't enough.
Oakley wasn't enough. And so Jordan doesn't become the GOAT if it wasn't for the Bad Boys. And Chase, you made mention of it from the jump that they're one of the most underrated teams in NBA history. And I would absolutely agree. They did a lot. When we talk about greatness, it's a lot to do with how they changed the game and the effect that they had on the game. And the Bad Boys had a huge effect on the game in so many different aspects, to the point where they, and positive and negative ones, where they even changed rules and such because of the Bad Boys. And Jordan and the entire Bulls team spent the whole summer trying to get stronger because of those Bad Boy Pistons. And so as much as I believe that Jordan is the greatest of all time, the one thing that I just want to make sure that I came in here and said is that the document showcases that Jordan does not become the greatest of all time if it wasn't for those Bad Boy Pistons and what they did.
Big facts.
Yeah, and I look at it. Rodman played for the Pistons too, and I don't know if we get the dog Dennis Rodman without the Bad Boy Pistons, without the culture of the Bad Boy.
Absolutely,
bare facts.
100%.
That though, right?
100%. So again, that team, man, we got to talk about it more as a basketball community. And I think the reason why it doesn't get talked about is because they were so great and they affected people in such a crazy way that everybody else hated them. Everybody else. To the point where Isaiah Thomas was left off the Dream Team because they hated that team they hated him and that team so much. They were just that good. They were that great.
It's just hilarious that, like, whenever you see these old heads talk about the Pistons,
yeah,
either facial expressions just like F those guys.
100%.
Easily.
Uncle Bill. Bill's still mad.
Jordan easily
hates him to this day.
100%.
Like we're gonna make a switch over to our last topic, but there's so many things in that doc that we didn't get to talk about, like the value of Doug Collins as a coach, and that transition for those 3 years, the shot over Craig Elo.
We needed that.
Right,
Yeah.
like and there's a thing about Doug Collins always doing great and then overstaying his welcome. He's like the Jim Harbaugh of basketball coaches. Kaepernick a ring. Oh, there's a lot of things that anyhow, but there's so many other pieces, and then another topic that one day to talk about is how long do you hate somebody? Because you saw there's a moment in the doc where Jordan is talking about Isaiah Thomas, and he goes right back to being 30 or 29 years old as a basketball player in the weight room doing shoulder presses, and he's a millionaire. He's a bazillionaire, and he's still talking about Isaiah Thomas as if they're going to play basketball right then and there. Isaiah Thomas came on record this week saying not making the dream team is the one thing on his resume that breaks his heart. And that was because years earlier, he dissed Jordan from not putting him on an All-Star team in 1987. And like, so how long do you hate somebody when you're a millionaire? Or when you have anything? How long do you hate somebody?
What else you got to do, though? You got nothing else going on.
Right? So maybe Draymond Green's on to something. If he's on the same thing, just say
Draymond Green needs to get on the train and go on to his
I'm going to say it a third time. Draymond Green is a bum.
There you go. So our is a bum.
Maybe
That's
it's a cult writer in the history of the game.
Let's.
He's a bum with 3 rings, so he doesn't care what you call
there
him.
you go. He doesn't care what you think.
Still can be a bum.
Doesn't
He's
care
not
what
a
you
bum,
call him.
guys.
Listen, you know what's has 3 rings?
Spartan,
He's
man.
not a bum.
Listen, you know what's
He's a
3
Spartan.
rings?
He's
Patrick
good.
Yo, allow him to
Patrick
his triple single.
McCaw. Patrick McCaw
has 3 rings.
In a row.
Guys.
In a row. Cross.
He three-peated.
Cross conference.
He three-peated.
Nation.
So is he the GOAT now?
Defending champ.
He is. Patrick McCaw is the greatest
That's
of all
3 for 3.
time.
And
Averages
he's
1 minute a
defending
game.
champ.
Listen,
Every
I
time
need the
he's
book.
made the playoffs,
Robert
he's
Ory.
won.
Robert Ory has
Robert
what, 7
Ory
rings?
has like 7 rings.
I need the
Come on
book.
now, guys.
7.
Come on now.
So
7.